she asked me, she's like, so what do you want to do? I'm like, well, I'm going to be a musician. And this is like, we're both working at the grocery store. She's like, well, how do you get paid? And all I could say was, well, they pay me by the gigs. She's like, okay. I'm like, well, hey, baby, don't worry. I'll take care of you, though. I got
You were trying to be slick. And low key, you were like, fuck, this girl got a point.
right, exactly, man.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the DP Podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Pinto. And with me today, we have a percussionist who's traveled around the world, Trey Balfour. And I've actually known him for a few years now. And we originally met in a gig that he was doing with my friend Joshua McClanahan, who's been on the podcast before. And they were playing at a place called Bravery Brewing out on Avenue N in Lancaster. And, you know, after the set, Josh had introduced me to Trey, who was on drums. And, you know, he was a cool guy, very friendly, funny guy. So I was like, hey, let me know if you are ever hanging around town. And he said, yeah, sure. And, we ended up meeting again and again and jams where mutual friends would host or go out to a gig that he was also playing with another friend of mine, and he'd be the drummer on it. So we just kept running into each other, and we started bonding through just, mutual acquaintances. And so then the more I learned about him, the more I was like, oh, man, this guy's a real established musician. And I feel like he's always been very honest when it comes to telling how the game is or where things might be heading. So I thought maybe his perspective would be very interesting to have on the show. So I hope you guys enjoy it. So without further ado, here's the podcast with Mr. Trey Balfour. Hello and welcome to the DP Podcast, double penetrating your ears today through both ear holes. With me today is the magnificent guest, Trey Balfour. This man has toured with Gladys Knight, Color Me Bad, Michael Bolton, and much, much more, and we're about to get into it. I'm so excited to introduce this guest, my best friend right here over here, Trey Balfour on percussion. What's good, man? What's good?
What's up, man? DP, what's up, man? How you doing, baby?
Nothing much, man. So, man, you are an established musician as far as I can tell, especially in the percussion world. You know, you're endorsed by Remo, Vader, and that's just to let the guests know that you are someone who has been there, done that.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
So I just want to take a second before we get into the deep stuff to let everybody know who you are. What is it, because I know you grew up in Oklahoma City specifically, right?
Absolutely.
So please let me know, what was it growing up in that environment? How did you learn about music? What were your first steps into that environment?
Okay, so musically, first of all, let me just lay the grounds by saying I really didn't come from a musical background per se. And excuse the train, that's, we're over here and we got the train. How it is, Bakersfield.
It is what it is, man.
You know what I'm saying? So my family, everyone on my mother's side were educators, okay? Everyone had gone to college, graduated, and at the least they had their masters, okay?
Okay.
So when my mother and father split up at an early age of my age of 2 years old, I went to live with my grandmother. So there was not really music in the house. It was books in the house. Okay. And the only music that was really being played was like during the holidays, Nat King Cole, all that type of stuff.
So you didn't have a piano, nothing at the house?
There was a piano.
Okay.
My mother, she was in band in high school. And that was, during the 50s, that was a thing. You'd have the little upright piano when you walk into the front room, and, kids, they have their piano lessons. But my mother really didn't take to it, even though she played in college. Okay. She played flute, but she went on to be a teacher and all this type of stuff. So, when I got older, I just started gravitating toward music, and I don't know why.
How old specifically?
Oh, well, I started, like every drummer, the pots and pans, okay?
And for those listening, this man is an established percussionist. He can play drums like a madman. So, go on, sorry.
Okay, no problem. So, and thank you very much. But I always was going toward the pots and pans and, in the kitchen and pulling them out. And I can even remember to this day being like maybe 3 years old doing that. To this day, right? I can remember that. But it was something that my grandparents never really pursued. But my biological grandfather, he used to sing in a band, and he was like, all right, Trey, you master this 2-stroke roll, and I'll get you your very first drum. I'll get you a snare drum. I'm like, okay, cool. So he showed me how to do it. And I mean, that's all I was doing was practicing like a 2-stroke roll. And I remember during the holidays, they would get me a drum set, a little Sears drum set. And day one of Christmas, I'm crying because I'm breaking the heads. And that's it. And, and those little Sears drum sets back then, you really couldn't buy replacement heads.
It was just one make.
That was it, man. That was it. One and done. So it's just like, okay. So that's when he decided, to get me a real drum. Well, so moving on, my mother told me about my biological father. Okay. And she was like, which I never knew this. She was like, okay, yeah, your dad, he, from Memphis, and he was well known in the music industry. He played with Isaac Hayes and
really,
oh yeah, and these were names
what
that
did he play?
My dad, well, he played all the wind instruments. Okay. So, being from Memphis, North Memphis, and I thought, okay, well, maybe that's where I'm like really getting that bug from, and that bug didn't hit me till probably my freshman year in college.
Really, that late?
I'm telling you,
really late.
I'm telling you, but I had done, drum and bugle corps stuff, and I'm sorry, man. This is
no worries.
One of my guys from Minneapolis calling me, return the call, so I had music a part of me, but I didn't know how. I just didn't know that it was that serious. You know what I mean?
It was just like a hobby, like just a play thing. Like, oh, I get enjoyment out of this.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's back up a second. So freshman year, you're like, I'm gonna take this seriously. But prior to that, what were you just in bands? Like, what was it?
Yeah, I was in
Drum
high school
line?
band, drum lines, all that stuff. Marching a drum and bugle corps, and it was cool, but I didn't know that there was actually a career that could be had in music.
Right, like money to be made.
Right, because on my mother's side, it was all education. And being, African American back then, it's like, okay, especially in the Midwest and down south, it's like the jobs for blacks were either like in the factories or education. Mm-hmm. So, my family like, well, man, there ain't nowhere in the world we gonna be working in a factory. No,
So education was the way.
That's the way.
Yeah, it's the only way.
That's the only way. So then it's like, okay, when I graduate from high school, I'm going to college, and my grandmother is like, okay, so what are you going to do? I'm like, you are going to major in computer science and business. And
she
like,
just chose for you like
that. Yeah, exactly. I'm like,
what was your reaction to that when she was just like, this is what it is? You're just like, okay, cool. It is what it is.
Yeah.
That you just accepted it.
That's what it was.
Was it because you were from Oklahoma? You're from Oklahoma City, so to you, it's like this is the world I know. These are my parents. They're like I'm just a 17-year-old kid or 18, ready
Yeah.
to go, and it's like, okay, what are you doing with your life? Okay, I don't know. Well, that's not good enough. So computer science.
Yeah, exactly. That decision was made for me. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, I didn't want to do the armed services, nothing against it. You know what I mean? But it was just like when I saw their drums, the Marines, like the colonial style with the straps, to tune it. I'm like, no, man, that's
That wasn't your vibe.
yeah, no, that's not cool.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? I'm not, nah.
Yeah.
So when,
Real quick though,
Yeah.
But what were your musical influences to that point? What were you listening to? What was?
All right.
Because there has to be a reason why you said no.
okay, so here's the deal. My musical influences, I can remember Bootsy's Rubber Band, one song, okay? RUBBERFANS, Rubber Band, and the Funketeers, Rapper's Delight,
Right.
Parliament, Flashlight, Aqua Boogie, Psycho Alpha, Disco, but all this stuff. I'm like, wow, this is really interesting. This is cool. Even to,
Was it different to what the scene was at the time where you were at? What was the scene where you were at, and what was it compared to what you were listening to and what you were interested in as a musician?
okay, the live scene, I wasn't even a part of the live scene in high school.
Really?
No, I wasn't even.
What were you playing? Percussion or drums?
I was playing drums. My grandmother, it was like my senior year in high school when they thought, okay, this is cute. Yeah, we're going to invest in, like parents, they'll have their kids, take them to karate and stuff like that.
Right. Baseball, whatever.
Soccer. My grandmother's like, okay, we're supporting him. Drum. He loves drums. He likes the drums. They didn't know that happened.
God bless grandma.
Man, absolutely. Mama Irma, man, man, come on, dude. Mama Irma,
Shout out.
shout out, man. Oh man, she was everything. So, she invested in my private education with Kadeen Walker out of Oklahoma City.
Was there any resistance from this?
Resistance on her?
No. She was the one supporting you.
Yeah.
Everyone else.
No, none. Because
really?
Yeah, none. That,
So
that
everybody was very supportive.
So-
Like, hey, let him do his thing.
Let him do his thing up
Okay.
until I graduated from high school. It's just like, all right, now that's over with now. Now you got to go get a real job, get this real education.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And you're gonna make something out of yourself.
Yeah, you got to start bringing in the bread.
Right.
You
But
have to have
now,
a family, blah blah blah.
so but I did not know how deep the Balfour gene, the musical gene, was in me until my mother was saying that, you really need to talk to your father because, like I said, he was known in the music business. He knew a lot of people. A lot of people knew him.
So you had never spoken to him prior to this?
I didn't meet my father till I was 21 years old.
Jeez, man.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Okay, personal question. When did he walk out?
When I was 2.
Okay, so you really didn't know him at all, period.
I didn't. Here's the thing. Papa was a Rolling Stone. Wherever he laid his horn was his home.
Damn.
You dig?
Yeah, I dig.
Okay, so, and during that time, unfortunately, as down south, in the black community, it wasn't unheard of for the man to have another family over there on the other side of town.
It's very interesting to me that even back then it was a normal occurrence.
Exactly. So, but the Balfours in Memphis, my father, he was the only one out of the 4 brothers. He was the one that they all went to college, but my father, he majored in music.
Mhm.
He got his master's in music. Okay.
Trumpet specifically?
No, woodwinds.
Woodwinds. Okay.
Woodwinds.
Just in general.
Yeah, in general. Yeah, all the woodwinds. Clarinet, sax, anything with a reed, he's in it. Okay.
Right.
So when I met him, it was just like, all right, man. So here's the deal. I'm gonna give you the rundown on the Balfours. The lineage comes from Jamaica. That's why you have all that rhythm in you. I'm like, okay, okay, cool. And he told me some other personal things that came into existence. I'm like, my dad was right.
Quick question: Did he know this all prior, or was he just
Did he know what all prior?
The heritage? When you came, were you just asking, "Hey, what's up? Who am I as a person, as a musician?" Or was he like, "I already know, bro"? Like when you came, he already knew.
Yeah,
What's
yeah.
up?
Oh,
What was
yeah.
the story
no,
of it?
no. Yeah, when we met in Michigan, in Detroit, he knew. He knew. He knew. So, and we clicked. We really did.
Because you're
And
musicians.
come on. But here's the deal. I didn't really know that I was a musician. I'm still trying to figure out who Trey was. Okay?
Yeah, because you were only 18 at the time.
Actually, I met him when I was 21.
21. Sorry,
Yeah.
21. So you're only 21. Like, if anybody listening to this were to put themselves in those shoes, we're all trying to discover who we are.
Exactly.
And if you're younger and you think you know who you are, you don't.
Come on, man. You already know. But now this is what kept pushing me toward the music, because my first cousin, Ron, I got to give a shout out to Ronnie Balfour. Ronnie was living in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Okay, and Ronnie he's a year older than I am. Well, Ronnie was with a band playing percussion that was signed to Capitol Records.
Really?
By the band was called Colorblind. Okay.
Okay.
So now
And they were out in L.A. Where were they at?
man, bro, they came out to L.A.
It had to be.
Exactly.
Where was the scene at? I just want to lay this groundwork on for when we talk about the future.
Okay.
You know
Cool.
what I mean?
Right.
But anyways,
Yeah.
L.A. was the scene.
LA
Anyways.
was right, exactly. So I'm going to their rehearsals in Oklahoma City. It was a joint venture between Oklahoma City and Tulsa. Okay, 3 members from Tulsa came to Oklahoma City, joined the band. Okay, great. And my cousin was one of them. He was playing percussion, and they opened up for Gap Band, and it was. I remember going to the Zoo Amphitheater where the concert was, and it was Colorblind, Parliament, and Gap. And no, I'm sorry. It was Colorblind and Gap. And
So no Parliament.
yeah, I don't think it was Parliament. Yeah, God, it's been like 40 years ago. And I had been going to their rehearsals, and it was just like, this is different. This is like for real. This is.
What were you going for those rehearsals for? Was it for percussion, for drums?
No, I'm just hanging out.
So you were just coming to hang because you knew
My
the
cousin.
person. You knew your cousin was in it,
Yeah.
so you're just coming to hang.
I knew my cousin's in the band. I know the band leader. His name was Trey Burden, and he was the drummer in Oklahoma City at that time. Came from a musical family, so it was just like, okay, my cousin is in the mix with all of this, and I'm just hanging out, And what's so funny is, I was like, okay, I've got to get a band, So
That was your reaction from it.
yeah, oh man,
Not be a part of it is like I need to have something similar, if not better.
exactly.
Okay.
And Colorblind, Burton was going to produce us. I had a little group. But we didn't know what we were doing. We were just walking around, just faking the
Walking
funk.
the walk.
You
Yeah.
walking the walk, baby. Like, yeah, we're a band. Man, ain't played not a lick, and
Y'all even played your first show yet.
exactly. Oh, it was crazy.
Damn, y'all were really walking the walk, huh? Man,
Oh,
ain't much different from today.
Come on, man.
Real
know
talk,
it,
real talk.
right? Okay, so but I asked Ronnie. I just told him. I just said, look, man, show me what you're doing on percussion. Because at the time, I've been playing drums. And
Who were you? I know a lot of people listening don't know a lot of drummers like Vinny or whoever we may talk about. But for myself, for my own curiosity, who were your influences at the time? And I understand this is your first introduction to percussion, but who were you listening at the time, and then we can start from there and how it affected you in the future.
So here's the deal. I wasn't listening to drummers.
Really?
I was listening to bands.
I feel you. I understand.
I was listening to Gap Band. I was listening to Al Hudson and One Way. I was listening to Parliament.
I think for your success, as we're going into your success as a percussionist, part of your success is a lot of that, because instead of focusing on the instrument and how to make yourself sound good, you were looking, what is my part in the music? How do I serve the music? And this is a big topic that a lot of musicians don't understand. How to serve the music, because a lot of people just want to play those licks, play the fastest runs, it's like, hey, sometimes you just got to play the right lick at the right time, and that's going to hire you more times than one.
Absolutely. And to me, I think that is lost now.
I think even back then. But I mean, I didn't live back then, but just from my understanding, when you have, at least in the guitar community.
Yeah, okay.
In the guitar community, drum community, I think has become what the guitar community was in the 80s when it comes to
shredding.
Malmsteen, shredding, exactly.
Yes.
Malmsteen, Eddie Van Halen for the people listening.
Yes.
It became, hey, who can play the coolest lick? I'm not going to show you this lick because I want to keep my hierarchy up here.
Right.
Same with drummers. I don't want to show you this lick because I want to keep this.
Right.
And it's like, we all got ears.
Come on, man. You already know.
Yeah.
So, that's the thing. I was listening to bands, not necessarily drummers. That happened later on. But once Ronnie showed me what he was doing on congas and the percussion stuff, and I'm studying him at rehearsal, and I'm thinking, okay, all right, so let me switch.
But you had no prior experience to the percussion.
None.
Okay.
I was on drum set.
Right. Only drums.
Only drums.
And now you have this new form of expression.
It's absolutely, and it's just like, okay. I remember my grandmother, she helped me get like my first set of congas, I think she got at this music store. And
it probably wasn't even congas, bro.
Yeah, well, dude, it was,
I can only imagine what the brand was called.
Exactly. You know what I mean? It was great, and I'm still learning from what he taught me. And my technique wasn't the proper technique because being in Oklahoma City, at that time, there weren't any really percussionists. You could count on one hand that, how many percussionists were in the state of Oklahoma as far as in the black community.
Oh, probably you and one other guy.
My cousin.
Yeah.
And he like I said, he's like between Tulsa and Oklahoma City. Now, granted, let me take that back. Let me take that back because there's Roger Franklin, there's Chuck Barnett, guys that helped pave the way for me that I didn't know about. Mm-hmm. Okay,
gotta give credit.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, man. But see, I didn't know my history. I didn't know that this world existed.
Yeah,
but
this was your first stepping stone into it.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't be mad at that.
No,
it is what it is. You just found out, hey, there's this whole new world of music that I had no idea about, and now I'm just dipping my feet in it. And you're learning all these new rhythms.
Yeah.
Because, for example, Latin music, people are like, oh, this one rhythm is what Latin music is. It's like there's a million different rhythms, just like with rock music, just like with jazz,
and let me
every
tell you,
genre.
And let me tell you, I didn't mean to interrupt, but let me tell you, even with the Latin music, in Oklahoma City during that time, in my eyes, in my vision, it was only 3 types of music. It was R&B, rock and roll, and country.
And that's talking about music. People, just a quick side note, something that kind of irritates me.
Okay.
Because there's bands like Snarky Puppy, more modern.
Yeah.
And something that kind of irritates me is us as musicians, we just look at it as music, this thing that hits us and makes us feel a certain type of way. Maybe we can put names like, oh, this specific part maybe have a funk influence or a jazz influence.
Right.
But we don't really care about labeling it, while most people want to label that thing.
You know,
Whether it's grunge, you make that
Yes,
name,
yes,
or whatever
yes,
it may
yes,
be,
yes.
neo soul,
Right,
neo
right.
metal, whatever.
Yes.
And I just want to let people know, for musicians, we really don't give a fuck about
We
that.
don't. We really don't. But the masses back there
Need an explanation.
exactly, especially when in Oklahoma, where they were still, not that it wasn't Jim Crow, but it was Jim Crow-ish.
I don't want to date you in any way. I don't want to.
Oh man,
Can you tell me what year, around what year was this?
I'm 29 years old.
I know you're 29. we celebrated yesterday, bruh. Come on.
No,
I
man,
still have some of the cake.
This was 83, and I left Oklahoma City in 91.
Okay, but right now we're talking about that in between period.
Yeah.
So you getting into percussion? Sorry, I just
Yeah,
want to
yeah,
let
yeah,
people know.
exactly.
Because
Yeah,
I'm trying to lay the
yes.
groundwork.
Yeah, no. It's all good.
Anyways, sorry. Continue.
No. So, with that being said, I was full blown percussion. I was going to school at Langston University. Got to give a shout out to the only HBCU in Oklahoma. Langston University, and that's when I started realizing, okay, this is kind of cool. I didn't know that I could do it yet, but I started submerging myself, because now you've got cats coming from other states that are musicians.
Why is that? Why were people coming to Oklahoma out of all the states?
Well, because it was a HBCU. It was a black university.
Right,
Okay?
right.
So
and that's where you were going.
That's where I was going. Okay. Now, mind you, I had a music scholarship. It was.
Oh, really?
It was just like Drumline. I'm just like Nick Cannon in Drumline. Okay.
Don't talk about Nick Cannon now.
You're
You're
right.
gonna beat some water right now, bro. You better watch out,
Right,
man. Those
right,
anti-Semites.
right. Come on now. So, it was like I was that guy that could play, that snare drum, all that. Couldn't really read rhythms. I was faking it. I faked it, and I got the scholarship, and I'm in the music department, and I'm seeing, that's when my eyes open up, like, wait, you can major in music? Okay, this is kind of cool. So I'm just, going to the band rehearsals, and we're doing all this stuff, and I'm playing in the jazz band. And it's cool. My roommate, he was the percussionist. And then what ended up happening was some of the guys that were in the choral department, his name is Keenan Foster, a good friend of mine. He had a group of singers. Well, he put musicians together, and we started a band. And
you were playing percussion in this band.
no, okay, at that point, I was playing percussion, because
how were your skills at that time?
They were getting there. They were getting there.
You were building it.
Exactly, because like I said, my roommate, he was the percussionist in the gym. I'm like, okay, but then it was like, okay, I'm playing drums, but I still have this percussion stuff. Okay, because I brought all this stuff home. Because I had acquired all of this gear. Watching my cousin with colorblind, okay, he's got, this, so I've got to get this, I got to get chimes, I got to get timbales, I got to get bongos, blah, 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 blah.
Conga, blah, blah, all different shapes, sizes.
All that stuff, And so now I've got like the drum set, and I've got the percussion stuff, and I'm still at my grandparents' house. And it's like, oh my gosh, but it's still cool. So I'll never forget.
They weren't giving you a hard time at all?
Well, no, because I was working.
So as long as you were working, they kept their mouths shut.
Come on, man. Come on.
Yeah. Were you paying rent?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I
Okay,
was.
that's why
Yeah.
they kept their mouth shut because
Yeah.
the money was
I,
rolling in.
I was paying. They were charging me like $100 a month or something like
Yeah,
that.
but back then,
Oh, come on, man. Yeah.
what was minimum $3?
Yeah, like 365 or something.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a lot of money, bro.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely for a kid.
Yeah,
And that's but it was like
that's a fat paycheck, man.
This was my decision,
Mm-hmm.
and then I started. I would always shop at this place. Got to give a shout out to my homegirl. She's like my sister. She is my sister, Dana Jo Cox. Just Drums out of Midwest City, Oklahoma. And, this was the spot where all the drummers would go. All right. It was the drum shop. It was like, at your LA drum shop,
In Oklahoma.
In Oklahoma City. Yeah, exactly. So I would always go over there and hang out. And Dana said, Trey, you really need to go check the band After 5. I'm like, who is that? What is that? She said, Walter Taylor. And I'm like, no. I'm like, yeah, I do know. I know who he is, but I don't know him personally. And she's like, you really need to just sit in with them. And I'm like, okay. So I ended up calling Walter, got his number, and I said, hey, man, I would love to sit in with your band, And at the time, they were a trio. It was drums, guitar, and keys. And the keyboardist sung lead, and he also played bass synth with his left hand. He had like a Juno 6 on top. And his board, it's something I can't
Those
remember.
keyboard players back then had at least 6 keyboards, so I don't blame you for not remembering.
Yeah, you know what I mean. But he
like for real, even today, man.
Yeah, but he ran with 2 bass and So
okay.
And it was cool. So I'll never forget, man. He's like, yeah, come on. He invited me out. Come on, and bro, it's something to be said. Your first impression is a lasting impression. Because when I went, I brought everything, including the kitchen sink, as far as my percussion rig, And
You're using everything as a triangle.
bro, it was like I dang near covered the stage.
Damn, bro.
Oh,
I'd be a little aggravated if the percussionist was taking all that shit, to be honest.
But I was
like,
at
this dude.
and that's what the guitarist said.
And look at who you talking to, a guitarist.
Right? He was like,
not far from the truth.
yeah, Maurice, man.
Because guitarists, we minimalist, bro.
Exactly.
So when we see all that, we like, come on, bro. You really need all that? Why are you even getting paid? Get out of here.
Oh, I wasn't even getting paid. I was sitting in. Remember?
Still get out of here. No, I'm just kidding.
But
that's
still,
how we feel.
And that's exactly what Maurice told me. And we're all like brothers, man. So and it was funny because,
bro, it don't matter. You know what? Quick
Yeah.
thing. Whether you look at Major League Baseball, basketball, musicians.
Yep.
If you were a guitarist, I'd be like, I can play as good as that motherfucker, if not better.
Yeah.
You gotta have that.
Yeah. You gotta have that edge. You can, hey man, I can do that, and I can do it better. Right.
But just to let people know that mentality it goes with whether it's major league or musicianship.
Yeah.
You know?
So we had we played and I played everything that I brought, and they dug it, and they said, man, you
even the guitarist.
Oh, even the guitars. Oh yeah, man. Because
I know I dug it when I heard it, so I believe it.
Well, but granted, before I had started playing with it, sitting in with them.
But wait, didn't you just say earlier that your primary focus was drums?
It was drums, but Dana was saying, you really should sit in with After 5. They already had a drummer.
Okay.
So she knew I was playing percussion too. So just so I could get working.
She just wanted to get you out there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, cool. So
you took the bait. That's good.
Man, dude, full bait. Took it all, hook, line, and sinker. Well, up until that point, I had been doing all this shedding at home on percussion. Okay. And I'm talking, I was listening.
At home or at your grandparents'?
Oh, I'd already moved out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you didn't mention that.
Yeah, I'm trying to just, yeah.
You're trying to pave your way.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Me and my girlfriend now, we're already married.
Bro, you skipped the whole chapter. What's up,
Yeah,
bro?
but it's all good.
Okay, how many years? Just let me know how many years between this.
Okay,
between you working at the
leaving
grocery store
okay.
to where now you're starting to do some big things and
They still weren't big things.
well, not big things, but these are the stepping stones.
Yeah, these
to
are the
big
stepping.
things.
We got together in '86.
And you met her when you were at the grocery store, 84?
85, the end of 85.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like right when I left college.
And when was it when you got married? And this was going down?
88.
88 when you got married.
Yeah.
You better not be wrong because she's going to hear this.
88.
You better not be wrong.
Right? February 6th.
There we go.
You
She's
know?
like, it's the 7th.
So, we had our place, and I'm literally shedding to country and western.
And she was cool with this.
Oh, yeah.
She was like, yo, you do your thing. Like,
Yeah.
that's cool, man.
Yeah,
That's how you know you picked the right one.
Absolutely. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
For all the ladies
I'm
out
working,
there, there's a lot of bullshit you got to deal with when it comes to musicians.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Exactly. But
And
I
musicians,
was
if you
working.
have a woman that is down with that, yo, you got to keep her.
Ride or die, dude. Ride or die.
Yeah.
So, I'm shedding to like classical music. Now remember,
Classical music.
this is hand percussion with all the toys, all the bells and whistles. I wanted to submerge myself in every genre of music.
That's smart.
Okay,
In percussion.
because it's like, all right, I want to apply this instrument, all of these instruments, to whatever music, if I get a call. Not knowing that I would, but just I'm going to be prepared because my grandmother always told me, baby, you got to look further than your nose.
Yeah. And it's really interesting to hear you say this because I hope we get to this in this episode, but, you apply this to even now.
Absolutely.
Whether
absolutely.
because I didn't mention this for your intro, but you teach at Little Rock, and with your students, you do the same.
Yeah,
so it's
man.
like the boat didn't rock; it's still there.
Exactly. So from country western to rock to R&B to jazz, that's when I started listening to individual players.
That's very important.
I started listening to drummers. I was started listening to
So
percussionists.
you weren't listening to drummers when you were a drummer?
No, like I said, I'm listening to bands.
You're listening to the full production.
The full
I understand now.
production.
I understand what you're saying.
You see what I'm saying?
No, 100%, because I feel I've gone through that.
Okay.
Like, for example, I recently got a MIDI keyboard. It's got a drum pad on it. It's got everything. And, I'm trying to replicate, for example, Rush.
Good luck.
Right? And it's like, hey,
Neil,
maybe you
man.
have 2 and 4 on the hi-hat and snare, but that kick is playing 7, and you better learn what's going on.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
And you haven't even talked about the toms.
You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. And I feel like when you start delving into that, it's because I'm like, man, I've been playing guitar for so long, and I feel like I've listened to the full band, but now that I have this MIDI keyboard where I'm really delving into what's going on, not just what I think is going on.
Right.
So
right,
I just want to let that
exactly.
in. Is now
What
you're
is
like
really
you're
going
very
on.
aware, because here's something I learned when I was going to music school when it comes to practice, and I think
Okay.
this applies to what you were saying is, when you come to practice, before you go to practice, you learn your part.
Absolutely.
So when you come to practice, you learn everyone else's part. You're not there to learn your part.
Right.
So same thing with what you're saying is, I already know what I'm supposed to do, or you're gonna get a better perspective of what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And now let me learn what the horn is doing over here. Let me learn what the drum's doing over here, with the bass over here, guitar, and now you're getting the full spectrum, because you want to be, as a musician, people listening, music is a language, and you want to be able to interact with everybody speaking their language and motivate each other. If someone says, I went to the bank, are you just going to say, oh, well, I went to the fish market? No, that doesn't have context. You want to say, oh, well, what did you do at the bank? You want to compliment that.
Exactly. And that's the school I come from, okay? And with learning, with playing and shedding to all those different styles, that first time walking up on that stage with After Five, not knowing their material, I was able to automatically and instantly go wherever they were going.
And know what to do and how to, because
Yeah.
you also learn how they speak the language.
Exactly.
And how to react to it.
Exactly.
And that's one thing, because sometimes you have, like, you went into that jam. You played 100%. You know what? Just because you played 100% and you can play everything doesn't mean you know how to react to everybody.
Exactly.
And compliment everybody. Because when someone takes a solo, someone doesn't understand that this is just like them maybe like wanking or doing their widdly thing. But it's like, no. They're trying to express themselves. They're trying to give away this idea. And your percussion, if you do a different rhythm from the standard thing, might motivate this person to do something different and move to a different direction, just like with the keys. And it's a constant moving picture, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yes. And like I said, with now delving off into the individual players that I'm listening to on the recordings, okay, Paulinho da Costa, Lenny Castro, Ron Powell, Aerto, Alex Acuna, Tito Puente, Harvey Mason, okay, oh my gosh, Raymond Calhoun from the Gap Band, Jellybean Johnson from The Time. These are the funk drummers. Sheila E. Now, there's a story about
I know there is. That's why I brought her up.
Bro.
But because from what I understand how you got into percussion, she was one of your big influences. But, let's get into that. But just keep telling your story, bro, because you're telling about your influences. That's why I wanted to bring up Sheila E.
Yeah,
I'm waiting for you to bring her up.
Yeah, it was coming. And, okay, so fast forward.
No. Tell what you have to say. Tell what you have to say.
Okay.
Look, we have this podcast usually goes an hour, but I'm willing to go longer if we got to tell a story.
This may have to be like a part. We may have to have a part 2.
If you want to have a part 2, we can do a part 2.
I'm 21 years old, man. So I've got a lot to say.
Yeah. Because you're 29, so we still got what? 8 years?
Yeah, man. You
know?
Oh, wait. Did I just say I was 21? I'm sorry. I'm 20. I'm 27.
27. So we got 6 years left now. The time just gets shorter as this podcast gets longer.
But I started listening to, these other players, and I'm like, okay, these are the guys that are working. These guys and girls, women that are working. Now I want to put myself in a position to where I can be one of them. So not even fast forward, Sheila E. She doesn't even know. And Sheila,
who is she playing for? Who is Sheila E. for the viewers listening? Because most people don't know who this percussionist is.
Well, Sheila has played with Prince. Her dad, Marvin Gaye.
Might have heard of him.
Yes, you're right. So
how did you learn of her and then see her?
Okay, so we're in Oklahoma City, and when I say we, me and my best friend, who was the drummer, I got to give a shout out to Lafayette Waters, my roommate. His nickname is Trouble. Talking to him today. He's back in Tulsa.
What's good?
We go to the Myriad. That's the like our Staples Center out here. Okay. We go to the Myriad and we see Lionel Richie.
Lionel Richie.
He's
always got a dope band.
He's on tour, and Sheila E.'s opening up
with her own band.
Okay. And
you knew who she was when
yes, because Glamorous Life had hit. Okay,
Yeah.
That. And she was fine. They're like, oh man,
she's still fine.
Right, come on now.
She's still fine.
And she's a percussionist.
Yeah.
And what I'm trying to do, it's like, okay.
It's a match made in heaven.
Man,
was good, man.
Right?
Yeah.
So
trust me, I know, man. Hey, that's the kryptonite for musicians.
Right.
Anyways,
so young musicians, we always find a way of getting in a venue without paying. You dig?
Oh yeah.
Okay. All right. So,
we know somebody.
Right. So we did, and Trouble and I, we actually get behind the stage, but up in the seating portion. So we're looking down on the stage, okay? And I could see the band, I could see the drummer, I can see the bassist, I can see the keyboardist, see Sheila. And it's like, okay, this is really, really cool. So we're up there, and this is after Sheila's gotten off stage. Okay, the band is gone, and now Lionel's on. So we're still up where we shouldn't be.
Mm-hmm.
And Sheila's bassist is up there too. He walks up there and he's checking out the show.
What?
Yeah.
Why wasn't he playing? Why was he up there?
No. He's checking out Lionel's show.
Oh, okay. I feel you.
Okay. All right. Because they had already
Yeah,
finished.
it's after they finished. Yeah. Okay.
So he's got some of Sheila's sticks.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yo, man, hey, we introduce ourselves. And he introduced himself. His name was, Ray. I'm like, okay, yeah, nice to meet you, man. Blah, 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 blah. So this is a funny story. So and he was like 17 at the time.
Oh, he was young.
Yeah,
cat.
17 or 18. 17.
Yeah, real young.
Yeah.
How old were you at the time? 21?
I was 22, somewhere in there.
Okay.
22.
Damn,
And-
he was young. Man.
Yeah, oh,
Playing
yeah.
for Sheila E.
Yeah, oh,
Must have
man.
been a monster on bass.
He was killing.
I believe it.
Still is. So we see each other, we're just hanging, getting to know each other. And I would say about a month later, I'm in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I'm on a gig, and we're staying at a hotel in downtown Tulsa. And I see some tour buses out in front, 2 tour buses. And they were Eagles at the time. They weren't really running the Prevos. They were running the Eagles. And on the top, they would have, like, on the bus, it would, Conway Twitty or whatever the band was. Well, on the bus, at the top, it said, "Nobody You'd Know." And I thought, okay, that's really, really cool, or just, no, that is cool. Nobody.
That's dank.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I dig it.
So-
I mean, if you're a well-known band, you're like, nobody you'd know. It's like, fuck out of here. You know what I mean? It's like
Right.
brush them under the rug type of stuff.
Right.
I
So-
dig it.
So I walk into the hotel, and I guess I'm in my room, something, but I'm stepping on the elevator, and as I'm stepping on the elevator, the door opens up. As I'm stepping on, Ray, okay, Raphael is walking off, the bassist for Sheila E. And I'm like, Ray? And he's like, hey, man, I know you. I'm like, yeah, Trey. He's like, yeah, Trey, what's up, man? I'm like, what are you doing here? He's like, we're in town performing tonight. I'm like, what? Sheila E? He's like, yeah, those are our buses. And it was just like, oh, nobody you'd know. That's Sheila? He's like, yeah. I'm like, oh, man. I'm like, cool. So we're hanging. He's like, you want to see the bus? I'm like, sure. So he takes me on the bus, and it was just like, oh.
Yeah, you get the bunk beds and stuff. It really isn't that glamorous when you think about it, but when as a musician, you're like, this is it.
And I had never set foot on a tour bus before. So, and they had like the gold-plated rails.
Oh.
Going down the hallway, and where the bunks were, and then at the very back, he showed me where Sheila was and the studio. And I thought
They had a studio on the bus.
they had a studio on the bus.
Damn.
Yeah, and I'm like,
Back then, that must have been a lot of equipment, man.
it was nothing extravagant, but
Enough
real
to
to real.
record
Yeah,
it.
real
Yeah,
to real. You know what I mean? Oh yeah. Oh,
Just track by track.
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
I feel it. Okay.
And I'm thinking, oh, this is it. I'm going for this 100%. This is my life now. I'm all about this life. And when that
As soon as you saw the golden doors, you were like, that's it.
dude, I'm like, I got the bug.
So, what were your plans before? Because it seems like
I
you were
didn't
getting
know.
in. It's just like, I love it. Let's do it. It just seems like
I did not know that I could make a career out of it.
So you were just like,
Let's
just going about life, just blissfully. Just,
Exactly. I'm working. I'm working, but I'm just doing my little hobby, but I'm getting better at it. So now I'm back in Oklahoma City and I'm gigging with well, not gigging yet, but I'm sitting in every Sunday. So finally,
Did they have a percussionist?
they didn't have they just had a
So
drum.
that's why you were sitting in, because
exactly. It was just a trio.
right. Because for those knowing, it's like percussionist. It's like, well, we already have a drummer. Why would we need a percussionist?
Exactly.
And all
But
that,
remember that, but they were jazz. So it's that whole weather report.
Yeah, weather report. Yeah,
all-
that's the best way to put it.
You dig?
They want those steel drums and all that.
They want all the colors, the cherry on top.
Right.
They want that energy.
Yeah.
You know? So
What the guitar does today.
right, exactly. So what ended up happening was Walter, the drummer, he calls me. He's like, "Hey Trey, hey man, we're doing this private thing, and I want to know if you could do it." And I said, at that time, crack was really big, so I'm like the crack dealer. I'm like, yeah, no, I can't do it. I got him hooked now. I got him hooked because I've been doing it every Sunday.
Yeah, he's already hooked on the drug. He wants some more.
Exactly, for months, at least 6 months, free every Sunday. Okay, so I said, yeah, man, I can't do it because I'm not getting paid. He's like, okay, let me make a call.
Damn. That will fix this
Because
real quick.
yeah, they were used to me now, and I elevated their show. So calls back 5 minutes later. Yeah, man, the gig's paying $100. I'm like, okay, cool, I'm there.
And $100 back then is good.
Right. So that
Per gig? Did you have per diem too?
No. It was
No,
just
it's
in
per
town.
gig.
In town
Oh,
stuff.
okay.
Yeah, $75, $100. I can't remember.
That's not bad, man.
No. And we did that, and the next thing I knew, they had a band meeting. Now I'm a principal member of the band. We recorded. Okay? But during that time, we had already had our son, and
Your first child.
yeah, first child, and my wife was not with raising our kid in Oklahoma because she's from California. She hated Oklahoma City. Because she was Hispanic. She is Hispanic. So
Yeah, man, we didn't conquer that territory.
You know what I'm
sorry,
saying?
I'm Mexican for the people listening. I'm sure everybody knows. But
Right.
we didn't conquer that.
Right. Exactly. She's Mexican, and she saw the Jim Crow-ish ism back then.
And didn't want her son.
A part of it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And my thing was
That's
like,
understandable, man. I can't be mad at that as a mother. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, you know what? I'm with you because you're from California. The music is out there in California.
You're like, this is good.
Yeah, I'm good. Let's go. So I ended up leaving the band right, I would say 6 months after we released our CD. And I stayed back to do the promotional tour that we did. And we were on like the radio stations. We were we were signed. We were on the Gavin Report. We were up there with like Miles Davis.
Yeah. But that's Oklahoma.
Yeah, but
ain't no California.
But Gavin Report was national, dog.
Really?
The Gavin Report. Oh yeah,
Damn,
man.
that's what's up.
No, we were on the charts.
That's what's up.
So
you were really, like you were saying, with Miles Davis and all that.
No, bro.
Okay.
It was either Miles Davis then us because he had just released something and we had just
Bitches
released.
Brew?
No, I'm not
in the
that
80s.
old, dude. I'm not that old.
Bitches Brew was like his 80s or late 70s. I don't remember what year the album.
Yeah, late 70s.
Yeah, then later than that. It must have been like
so
the one with,
this was in 90.
Oh wow, later.
Yeah.
He must have been towards his end years.
Yeah.
I don't know what album.
It was when he was on Warner Brothers.
Yeah, I don't know his 90s albums.
Yeah, but we were, John Tesh. We were up there with all these guys, man.
Yeah.
And it was just like, okay, I got to bounce now because my family's in California, and the band isn't really progressing like it should with me being married, having a child, and all musicians
wasn't advantageous to it.
You know what I mean? And we're opportunistic. We got to go where the money is. Yeah. So I came out here. And that's when 6 months later, It was a little group, 4 little singers out of Oklahoma City by the name of Color Me Bad. The
Never heard of them.
The musical director hired me, and
Wait, so you showed up to LA or to California and
Palmdale, yeah.
and it was just like, here's the gig?
Well, yeah, 6 months later, yeah.
So you were, well, because like here in LA, as a musician, it's like you got to build up your social media, unfortunately, which is what it is, which we'll get into hopefully in this episode or next, and or going to a jam, which is the more old-fashioned thing, going to a jam session and meeting people. So my question to you is, in those 6 months, what were you doing to build your accolades in a new state, especially with no social media, no way to really put you out there?
And that's a very good. I'll tell you what I was doing. I was working construction, and actually, my first gig was delivering phone books out here.
Damn.
Then in Santa Clarita, me, my mother-in-law, doing that, and then it was like, okay, then started doing construction, and it was like, okay, I've got to get in music somehow. I have to, and after that construction, that's when I got the gig with Color Me Bad, and
You met him through there?
no, well, we knew each other back in Oklahoma City.
Really?
Yeah, because on the same circuit.
Okay.
Both
of you were from that area.
Yeah, well, yeah. Those guys, they're originally called Take Five. Originally, they were called Take Five, and the musical director and their producer Hamza, he would come out to the clubs and just check out the scene. And they had a band called Waveform 7. It was a family band, and but we knew each other. We respected each other. They were from they went to like Millwood High School. I was at Douglas High School. And at the time, you have the 3 black high schools in Oklahoma City, in the black side of town, and you got your musicians. So we knew the musicians, so to speak, and that came from those high school programs. As we got older, and we just knew them, just hung out, see each other on the scene. And when I moved out here, Color Me Bad had already, started popping. And I'm like, okay, great. Them and Boys to Men, neck and neck, and I Want to Sex You Up. I'm hearing it out here. I'm like, oh, yeah, Oklahoma City, my homies. All right, blah, blah, blah. And then Hamza calls me. He's like, hey, man, the percussionist that we have isn't working out. And I'm pulling for, you're a homie. So I'm like, all right, cool, let's do this. And I got the gig. We toured with, we co-headlined with Paul Abdul for like 6 months.
How do you feel your skills were at that time on percussion when you said, cool, no problem? Like, were you, like, compared to your final product of what you think was your prime on percussion to where you were now? Because,
Oh, I was horrible.
Okay.
I was horrible.
That's what I was expecting you to say.
Yeah, I was horrible because now remember, coming from Oklahoma City, like I said, my technique was horrible. It was just like, okay, but I had that energy, I had big ears. I knew where to put things.
Right. And that's important.
Absolutely.
Very, like anybody listening, if you're trying to be a musician, you need to know where to put things.
You got to know where to put things. And I knew how to carry myself. Okay? I knew that if the call time was this such a time, all right, man, you ain't gonna worry about Trey. Trey's gonna be there 30 minutes prior.
And know his stuff.
Okay? And I'm gonna bring the energy with it.
Right. That's super important.
Okay? So, that's how I was able to get the gig. Then I started being out on the road. Now and then, Sonny Emery, who used to, be Earth, Wind & Fire's drummer. He was Paul Abdul's musical director.
Oh. Okay.
So he would shed with me on the tour bus. So now he's working with my technique and blah, blah, all this type of stuff. So I'm like, all right, this is cool. So granted, you know, now I'm doing it. I'm getting paid. Now I'm practicing more the real stuff.
Yeah.
I'm becoming more seasoned.
But was Color Me Bad aware of where you were along in the musical level? Or were they
No,
like,
no.
look, we need somebody, you're good enough, let's do it?
Yeah, it was like you're a homie, you're good, you're on time, you got the look, you got the vibe, you can play. Yeah, man, it's cool. It's all good. It's all good. Let's roll. Let's go make some money. Let's
Cool.
go.
It's like, yeah,
You know what I mean?
good enough for jazz. Let's go.
Right, exactly. So now, gone for 6 months doing that. Now, this was the humbling part. Now, granted, touring, Asia, United States, all this type of stuff. Arsenio Hall show, Jay Leno, all this stuff. And when the tour is over, I'm coming back like, all right, phone's gonna ring. Man, I'm cussing.
You the bee's knees.
Yeah, come on, man. We had the number
You're
one
cooler
song.
than sliced bread.
Thank you, man. Those guys had the number one song in the world.
Yeah.
Okay,
and you just got done playing Arsenio, who was huge at the time.
Exactly.
Jay Leno.
Man, bro, come on, man. Bootsy was in the band for a second on the Arsenio Hall show.
People wanted to play with you.
Okay, so I get back from the tour, phone's not ringing. And I'm like, what? Okay, man, what's going on? Well, I'll tell you why. Because remember, I was here for 6 months coming from Oklahoma City. And in that time span, in that 6 months, I'm delivering phone books and I'm working construction. Then I get
You're MIA.
So I leave, come back. No one knows who Trey Balfour is. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So why are they going to call me?
They know who Color Me Bad is.
They don't know who
They don't know who Trey is.
Exactly. So it's just like, okay, well, let me go back to working,
Hustling.
Yes. So I said, it's got to be something in music. I have to do something. So let me start from the bottom, but I'm going to shift it to music. So I started detailing cars, at a car dealer. And the owner's brother, he was a jazz aficionado. He loved jazz, loved it. So he brought me in, helped this musician out, blah, 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 blah. Then I started working at the Warehouse Record Store. So now I'm in music. Now I'm dealing with music at some level.
So you were still in Color Me Bad, weren't you? Were you not touring?
Well,
It's just like pause.
We weren't touring. Yeah. We weren't even
Yeah.
doing any one-offs. The only thing I can say is I recorded the second album. I did one song and I was in the video.
Mm-hmm.
And then things started going south. The label, music business.
Just to let people know, when it comes to what you just said, music business is, if you watch an artist play with a band, like let's say Justin Bieber, it's like, oh, well, who are these people playing with him?
Yeah.
Well, you might have Trey Balfour, and then when that tour ends, well, there's no more money, so we gotta hustle.
Right.
And so that's the predicament that Trey found himself in for the first time,
Yeah.
or something that every musician finds himself in.
Exactly. If you don't network. So after I'm in the music store, well, at the other end of the mall was another, but it was an instrument store called the Music Center, and I knew those guys, so they hired me to teach drums. So I'm like, I would work at the warehouse in the morning, get off about 3, then go down there and work. Then Michael Bolton's drummer, Muggs Kane, was also teaching there. And unbeknownst to me, Michael Bolton's drummer, the keyboardist, and the guitarist lived in Palmdale at the time. Okay.
That's pretty convenient.
Yeah, right. But I didn't know it. I only knew of Muggs. Well, another guy who was a band director at one of the middle schools who used to work with Sheena Easton, his name was Mark Macisso, he hired me it was a Christmas party for the Palmdale School District party. And Joy Malati, Bolton's MD, happened to be on the gig because they knew each other. And I didn't know Joy. And I'm coming with my percussion stuff, and he's like, hey, man, yeah, I like the way you play, blah, 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 blah. You know, who are you hitting with? I'm like,
And at this time, how do you feel your skill level was?
I was a lot better. I was a lot better because I had also been doing the gig I got the gig at the Lion King parade.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And from there, I was doing television shows. And so, yeah, now I'm getting
You just glossing over it like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, there were no gigs. Oh, yeah, I was doing Lion King, commercials,
Yeah, man.
blah, blah, blah. All this other stuff. No big deal. It only counts when I'm on tour.
Right. Come on, man.
Real talk.
So, and as a matter of fact, I was still at Disney. The Lion King parade had ended, and I was in it wasn't the Dixieland.
Here in Anaheim.
You're right, in Anaheim. It was a new, it was like the New Orleans band. We were like the evil twin brother to the Dixieland band, and we played dirges and all this type of stuff, and then beef them up. And I'll never forget it. I had auditioned for Frankie Valli, and the very next day, my wife had paged me, and she said, "Hey, Joey Melody called here looking for you." I'm like, "Joey Melody?" She's like, "Yeah, he's Michael Bolton's." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I did a gig with him." So she said, "Yeah, give him a call." So I call him on my break, and he says, "Hey man, Bolton's looking for a new percussionist, and I want to throw your name in the hat." I'm like, "Okay, cool." He's like, and I'll be honest, it's some other guys that I'm looking at, and I'm like, and I'm not cocky, but I'm like, well, okay, yeah, I get that, but I auditioned for Frankie Valli just last night, and it looks like I may have that gig. I don't know, but what do I need to bring to the audition? And he was like, "Oh, you don't have to bring anything. I know you can play." And I thought, oh, it was like, oh, so this is how it's done.
Now you're learning the real game that the music directors, for everybody listening, the music director is the one that puts you on the gig.
Exactly. It's who you know and who knows you. So I went to that first rehearsal, man, and it was just like, oh, this is like next level stuff now.
Yeah.
There's one thing.
Because we don't want to hear you play. We know you can play. Just bring it.
Exactly. And it went from, okay, high school marching band to the college band to, seeing Colorblind and all that stuff. And then after 5, okay, then Color Me Bad. Now I'm like, oh, this is the status of like, okay, you're Elton John's and you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're in that circle now.
I'm in that circle where I did a gig with, he's passed away, but Bob Birch, he was Elton John's bassist, and it was just like, I know these guys and they know me.
You're with heavy hitters now.
The real deal, in my mind, the real deal.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's like, okay. And I had the gig with Bolton, and that's when doors started opening.
That's what's up. Now, Trey, we've been going at this for over an hour 20.
I'm sorry.
No, don't trip, man. I love hearing all this. I'm learning a lot. There's a lot of stuff I wanted to touch on.
All right.
But
part 2.
I don't know if you want to do a part 2.
I'll do a part 2, man.
You wanna do one?
You're my guy, dude.
All right,
man.
no worries then.
Do you
want to plug your Instagram or anybody your
man?
before
I'm a
we end this
nobody,
episode?
dude. Man, look, you can. Okay, what is it?
Plug something in, man.
Trey Balfour, Instagram, TREBAL, the number 4. What else?
No website?
No, man, I ain't doing no
Any
website.
artists that you're trying to promote?
Yeah, Jay Lamont. I produced him. That he was in the band at Langston.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I produced him, did his EP, and one of the songs, "Celebrate," went number 17 on the UK Soul Chart last year. So very proud of that. And he's a comedian, and his shtick is he sings. He's a impressionist. So Jay does his thing, and you can find him Jay Lamont Lamont. What else? That whole social media thing. I swear it's not me, man. It's
Man,
but that's
we're gonna
where
get
it
into
is.
it. We're gonna get into
I
it,
know,
man.
I need to be okay. Blacktop BLAK underscore. I'm sorry, BLAKTOP underscore music on Instagram. That's our band. We're signed, and we got signed right before COVID.
Damn,
Right.
you got some good players in there.
Yeah, I mean they're okay.
They're okay. We might know them.
Josh, Joel, JD,
They cute.
Dave. They're okay if you're into that.
But
Those are my
anyways,
brothers, man.
I appreciate you, Trey. Thank you so
Man,
much,
appreciate
man.
you more, dude.
Yeah, this has been another episode of the DP Podcast. Hope to have you again, bro. Peace out.
DP! Later, y'all.